Hey guys, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about common terminology that you'll hear all the time when talking about web application development. So first, what is front end or front end development? It's essentially what a user sees when they visit a web page. So when you go to your browser and you go to google.com, whatever you're seeing is actually the front end of that website. And the technologies used there are essentially HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we'll get into what each of those means in a little bit, and we'll dive into each one of these in later videos. So what is backend then? We talked about front end. There's also something called backend, and that's essentially what you don't see on a web page. I know that's kind of a broad definition, but we'll get into what backend actually means in a later video and dive deeper into that. But for now, all you need to know is that it's essentially what you don't see on a web page, and that could be pulling data from a database, using another company's APIs, etc. And again, we'll talk about what APIs are in a later video. And you'll also hear that backend is server side. That's just another term for backend. And unlike front end, where what you're seeing is essentially HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, there are a ton of technology choices when it comes to backend development. We'll pick a specific stack in a later video that I'll talk about, but all companies use different technologies. It's called stack. Is the choices of technologies that a company uses, and companies use a ton of different technologies. But we'll talk about a specific stack in a later video. Now, what is HTML? HTML it's first of all, it just stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's essentially the content of your page. So that's where the text comes in. It's just the text that you're seeing on a page. It has nothing to do with styling. It has nothing to do with actual logic of the page. It's just the text that you're actually seeing. So where does styling come in? Well, that's what CSS is. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and that's where you define the style of your page. So something like make all text on the web page green, or give the first image on a page a yellow border. That would be the CSS, and that's what you use to define the style of a specific page or specific attributes on a page. So it defines the style of HTML, and that's all you need to know for now. We'll dive into CSS in a later video. Now, what is JavaScript? JavaScript adds logic and interactivity to a page. So it could be something like do some math, or when when a user clicks a button on a web page, do something. That logic is all defined by JavaScript. And you'll always hear something like HTML is the nouns of a web page, because that's essentially just the text on a web page. And you'll hear that CSS is basically your adjectives, because it just defines how something should look. So how a specific text should look on a web page, or how an image should have a border, like we just talked about. And JavaScript is essentially the verbs. So it defines what should happen when a user does something on your web page. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. It's really, really quick. Before we actually get into coding, just wanted to talk about these key pieces of terminology. So we covered what front end is, what back end is, and then what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript do for a specific web page. So in later videos, I'm going to be talking about all of these, but I'm going to start with HTML. It's a great place to start, so that we can start defining the structure of a web page, and we'll get to that in the next video. I'll see you there.